Hello, and welcome to Overwatch Doomfist Impressions. In this video, I'll go over the newest addition to Overwatch, a tough offense hero named Doomfist. First, some backstory. Doomfist is a prominent leader of the Talon Council, the same organization to which Reaper and Widowmaker belong, and his mission is to see humankind become more powerful through conflict. He comes from Nigeria, and Winston put Doomfist behind bars for many years, but now Doomfist is back and ready to fight Overwatch. Now, let's dive into an overview of Doomfist in the actual game. First, Doomfist has 250 health, which makes him one of the beefier offense heroes. He has a normal movement speed, 1 weapon, and 3 main abilities. His primary weapon, or left click, is called his hand cannon. This weapon shoots 4 shotgun shots, where each one does about 60 damage total. This weapon has no damage fall off, but it does have considerable spread. There's a projectile speed to this attack, which seems to be a little bit faster than Orisa's primary weapon. The ammo for this weapon regenerates over time, a bit more quickly than 1 shot per second, so you can use it in a very bursty way, almost like a small clip Reaper if you shoot all 4 shots off very quickly, or you can shoot more slowly to deal continuous chip damage, kind of like for dealing damage to barriers. Doomfist's right-click ability is called his Rocket Punch. In this attack, Doomfist charges forward, knocking back enemies. This attack does 50 damage if you just right-click, but if you charge it up for a few seconds, it does up to 100 damage. Now, what really matters about this ability is if you can knock your enemy into a wall with the knockback. If your enemy gets knocked into a wall, the attack does an additional 50 to 150 damage, depending on charge. This ability seems to be Doomfist's primary mechanic. Now, you can only move horizontally with this ability, much like Tracer's Blink, and the punch seems to roll off of walls more easily than Reinhardt's charge, which helps you get around corners, but the hitbox for it seems to be pretty small, so it can be tricky to hit an enemy. Once you fully charge the punch, you can only hold on to it for about a second before you have to use it. When fully charged, this rocket punch will travel about as far as Reinhardt's charge, so it's a considerable distance. Doomfist's shift ability is called Rising Uppercut. You deal 50 damage and jump up into the air with whatever enemy's in front of you. Doomfist's E ability is called Seismic Slam. This ability leaps forward and smashes onto the ground. This ability does 45 damage and stuns your opponent for a split second, likely to help you line up your rocket punch next. This ability is almost like a really mini Earth Shatter. You can change the direction of the damage once you already start the leap, which means that you can pretty reliably hit your target with it, even if they move around right after you jump. Doomfist's ultimate ability is called Meteor Strike. With this ult, Doomfist disappears into the air, and you get a few seconds to quickly move this big circular targeting reticle that appears on the ground, just to you, and slam down on an enemy, dealing up to 300 damage in the area. This ability is a lot different from his uppercut slam combination in that it's really more like a teleportation with a lot of damage, focused at the center but with a bit of area of effect. On top of all this, Doomfist has a passive ability called The Best Defense, as in the best defense is a good offense. What this ability does is it lets Doomfist gain barriers from dealing damage. If you hit an enemy with one of your 3 main abilities, you gain 30 barriers, and if you hit an enemy with your ultimate, you gain 75 barriers, up to a maximum of 150 barriers. These barriers tick away over time, so they'll only last a handful of seconds before going back to 0. This ability encourages Doomfist to play aggressively, moving through the enemy team 1 by 1 or maybe 2 by 2. Now, onto how Doomfist actually plays. First, let's touch on his mobility. I found that to roll it from spawn quickly, you should use an uppercut and then a slam to get vertical and horizontal distance. Neither ability lets you move faster horizontally by itself, but the combination together acts a lot like Winston's jump pack. If you follow this up with a charged rocket punch, you can cover distance pretty quickly. Now, when in combat, these abilities will work a little differently. If you need to engage an enemy from a distance, the uppercut slam combo works well to engage with about 50 damage from the slam. If you can follow this up with a rocket punch and your 4 left clicks, you can pick off a squishy hero quickly. If you manage to sneak up on an enemy, you can also deal an additional 50 damage to engage with the uppercut. However, if you're facing up against a tank, you'll have trouble dealing enough damage once you use up your abilities to finish them off. So Doomfist can gank squishy heroes pretty well. He's very weak in large open areas, where hitscan heroes like Bastion and Soldier can pick him off really easily. I also think Doomfist is weak against Sombra, because he's all but useless when hacked without his abilities. I'm not yet sure how Doomfist fares against Symmetra or Reaper, since that seems to totally depend on whether you can land your Rocket Punch and hit them against a wall. I suspect Doomfist will benefit from healers that work well with flankers, namely Zenyatta and Ana. Doomfist can't play too close to his team from a distance because of his short range, but he needs healing support because he's a large target with no self-healing. Tracer has recall and Reaper has passive healing, but Doomfist's only option is to use his abilities to run away, like Winston without his barrier projector. As for tanks, Doomfist seems to work best with a team that can dive in with him. He can't play behind a barrier from Reinhardt or Orisa well because of his short range. He might work well with a D.Va defense matrix, since again he has a large hitbox, and unlike most large heroes, has no armor or shields to protect him. As Doomfist, you probably need to save your left click to fill in between your actual abilities when they're on cooldown. Doomfist's primary weapon can deal a good amount of damage if you have good aim up close, but the projectile speed still makes his attack less reliable than an up-close hero like Reaper. So, what role will Doomfist play in Overwatch? I think he'll fight with his team, probably initiating fights by picking off enemies who stray just a little bit beyond their team. Doomfist can't sneak around like Tracer, and he's not a tank buster like Reaper. He's weak in open areas where he can't deal damage or protect himself, but he's strong in closed areas where he can deal a lot of damage with his Rocket Punch. It feels like Doomfist mechanics will play a lot like Tracer or Genji, in that you need to stay mobile with your abilities and turn around very quickly. His ultimate also can be a great way to initiate fights, since you can pick off a hero, such as pretty much any healer, with your 300 burst damage. That wraps up my initial impressions of Doomfist and how he'll play out in Overwatch. Let me know what role you think Doomfist will play in the comments, and consider subscribing for more Overwatch content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.